Have you ever wondered what truly hides behind the magnetic gaze of a Scorpio? Discover the 5 hidden powers of people born under the sign of Scorpio that almost no one talks about, but everyone can feel. First hidden power. Scorpio can sense emotional truths before they're even spoken. Scorpio doesn't need words to know what's really going on. While most people rely on facial expressions, tone of voice, or logic to understand others, Scorpio reads what lies beneath the surface. It's like their intuition is a radar tuned to the frequency of emotional honesty. Even when someone is smiling and saying, "I'm fine," Scorpio can feel the storm brewing behind the eyes. They don't just listen to what's said. They feel the emotional energy of what was left unsaid. What's strange and truly powerful about this gift is how involuntary it is. Scorpios don't choose to scan people, they just do. It's like breathing. They walk into a room and within seconds, they know who's hiding something, who's lying to themselves, who's secretly hurting, and who's radiating truth. This emotional X-ray vision isn't something they flaunt. In fact, most Scorpios go their entire lives thinking this sensitivity is normal, until they realize not everyone experiences the world this way. That's why Scorpios often withdraw or stay quiet in social situations. They're not being shy, they're processing everything, feeling everything, observing the dance of human emotions in real time. And once they've gathered enough invisible data, they begin to form impressions that are shockingly accurate. It's no coincidence that many Scorpios are considered intense or deep. What others mistake for mystery is actually the silent act of decoding the truth. And here's the twist. Scorpio doesn't always call out what they see. Sometimes, they simply watch. Let the lies unfold. Let the person reveal themselves. This patience is terrifying and awe-inspiring at the same time. Because when they do speak, their words land with the weight of someone who truly knows, who saw through the mask from the beginning, who felt the contradiction between the smile and the soul. This is why many Scorpios are trusted with secrets, even by people who just met them. There's an unspoken knowing in their presence, a magnetic pull that says, "You can be real here." And people often are. They confess things they never planned to share. They expose their wounds, they drop their guard. And Scorpio doesn't judge. They listen, they absorb, they remember, but they don't forget. This emotional perception makes Scorpio both a healer and a threat. Healer, because they can touch emotional wounds that no one else noticed. Threat, because they can dismantle emotional facades with a single stare. This duality gives them power. Quiet power, unshakable power. The kind that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. So if you've ever looked into a Scorpio's eyes and felt like they saw right through you, it's because they did. And what they saw wasn't what you were trying to show. It was what you were truly feeling, even if you didn't know it yourself. Second hidden power. Scorpio can transmute pain into power, and no one even notices. Most people spend years trying to overcome their emotional wounds. Scorpio, however, does something far more mysterious and infinitely more powerful. They alchemize it. Pain, betrayal, rejection, heartbreak. None of it goes to waste in the world of Scorpio. Instead of denying their suffering or escaping from it, they dive in head first. They let the fire burn. They walk through the emotional hell that most people run from. And when they emerge, they're not just healed, they're transformed. But here's the strange part. No one sees the transformation happen. Scorpio doesn't broadcast their pain. They don't post about their healing journey or ask for sympathy. They go silent. They go deep. And in that darkness, in that quiet solitude where most people would crumble, Scorpio finds their strength. They rebuild themselves, piece by piece, in silence. And when they come back, they're different. Sharper, wiser, more focused, like a sword that was forged in fire, but now gleams with purpose. What makes this power so rare is how internal it is. Scorpio could be going through the worst emotional storm of their life and still function with stoic precision, still show up for work, still keep their promises, still take care of others. On the outside, they seem composed. On the inside, there's a sacred fire roaring, a ritual of rebirth taking place that no one is allowed to witness. This is why people often underestimate Scorpios. They assume silence means weakness, that retreat means defeat. But what they don't realize is that Scorpio retreats like a warrior, sharpening their blade. When they come back into the world, they do so with a power that's even more refined, even more unstoppable than before. This transmutation is especially potent because it gives Scorpio emotional endurance that few can match. While others break under prolonged pressure, Scorpio thrives. The more intense the challenge, the more focused they become. It's not that they enjoy suffering, but they respect it. They understand that true transformation only comes through pain, and they are one of the few signs who have the courage to walk that path willingly. This is also why Scorpio becomes more powerful with age. Each wound becomes a source of wisdom. Each disappointment, a lesson. Each scar, a reminder of what they've conquered. Over time, their emotional resilience becomes impenetrable, not because they stopped feeling, but because they've felt it all and turned it into fuel. So if you ever meet a Scorpio who seems unshakable, grounded, unbothered by chaos, know that this serenity was earned. Know that behind those calm eyes is a history of emotional fires survived and conquered. And know that this power, the ability to transform pain into power, is not just rare, it's sacred. Third hidden power, Scorpio can command silence and use it as a tool of control. In a world addicted to noise, Scorpio stands out not for what they say, but for what they withhold. They have a relationship with silence that is unlike any other sign in the zodiac. For Scorpio, silence isn't absence, it's presence, it's intention, it's strategy. They don't speak to fill space, they speak when the words have weight, and that makes every word they say feel like it matters 10 times more. But the true power lies in what happens when they say nothing at all. Scorpio knows how to hold silence like a sword. In an argument, while others raise their voices, Scorpio lowers theirs or doesn't respond at all. That pause, that stillness, that calculated withdrawal from the conversation creates a pressure that others can feel in their bones. It makes people question themselves, rethink what they said, reflect on their own tone. This isn't manipulation, it's emotional discipline. And it's one of the most misunderstood aspects of Scorpio's power. Their silence is rarely passive, it's purposeful. It's the space they create to observe, to feel the undercurrents, to read the room before choosing their next move. While others rush to defend themselves, to explain, to justify, Scorpio simply waits. And in that waiting, they often gain the upper hand because most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill it. They reveal too much. They say things they regret. And Scorpio listens, records, stores information. This gives Scorpio a psychological edge. In relationships, in negotiations, in conflicts, they don't just react, they respond. When they speak, their words hit with surgical precision, because they've taken the time to understand the dynamics at play. And when they don't speak, their presence still communicates volumes. A look, a breath, a subtle shift in energy. With Scorpio, nothing is ever wasted. Even more fascinating is how they use silence as a form of protection. When they feel unsafe, betrayed, or simply overwhelmed, they retreat into stillness, not to avoid the situation, but to preserve their energy, to process, to regroup. This ability to self-regulate through silence allows them to maintain control, not only over others, but over themselves. What appears cold to some is actually Scorpio's way of creating boundaries. Their silence says, I'm watching, I'm thinking, I'm choosing what deserves my energy. And this choice, the choice not to react impulsively, is a superpower in a world that rewards noise over wisdom. Ironically, this quiet strength often intimidates others. People can't read what Scorpio is thinking, and that unknown becomes unsettling. But for Scorpio, that's exactly the point. They don't want to be predictable. They don't want to be easily understood. They want to remain sovereign in their own emotional space, and silence is their sanctuary. So next time a Scorpio goes quiet, don't assume they're disconnected. They might be more connected than ever, just not to your words, to your energy, your truth. And they're deciding, silently, how to move next. Because when Scorpio commands silence, the world leans in to listen. Fourth hidden power, Scorpio can magnetize people without saying a word. There's something about Scorpio that draws people in, often before they've even said a single word. It's not just physical attraction, although Scorpios are known for their undeniable sensuality. It's something deeper. something energetic, something that operates below the surface of logic. People find themselves intrigued, curious, sometimes even intimidated, without knowing why. And that's the power Scorpio holds, the power of magnetic presence. This presence isn't about being loud or flashy. In fact, Scorpios are often the quietest person in the room, but their energy speaks. It speaks of depth, of intensity, of something unnameable that others can't help but notice. It's as if their aura vibrates on a frequency that tugs at people's attention, even when they're just sitting still. This magnetism is rooted in authenticity. Scorpio doesn't wear masks. They don't pretend to be someone else to fit in. They know who they are, or at least they're on a relentless quest to find out. And that kind of self-awareness, that raw truth, is rare. It cuts through superficiality like a blade. People crave authenticity, even if they don't know how to name it. And when they sense it in Scorpio, they gravitate toward it. But here's what makes this power so strange. Scorpio isn't trying to attract anyone. In fact, they often resist attention. They prefer solitude. They value privacy. And yet, people still orbit around them, still seek their approval, still want to get closer. It's a paradox, one that Scorpio lives with every day. The more they withdraw, the more people want in. This magnetic pull can make Scorpio a mirror for others. People project their desires, fears, and fantasies onto them. They imagine depth and meaning where Scorpio may have only shown stillness. And this can be both a blessing and a curse. Because while some are drawn to Scorpio's energy for genuine connection, others are simply chasing a mystery they don't understand. Scorpio is aware of this, on some level. They know when they're being idealized, when someone is projecting, and they're careful with it. They test people, push them away, not to be cruel, but to see who stays, who truly sees them, who wants connection, not conquest. Because for Scorpio, intimacy is sacred. It's not about attention, it's about resonance. This ability to attract effortlessly also gives Scorpio influence. In group settings, people look to them for direction, even when they're not leading. In friendships, their opinions carry weight, even when unspoken. In love, their presence lingers, long after the relationship ends, because once someone has truly connected with a Scorpio, they're changed. The memory of that connection doesn't fade easily. It echoes. That's why many people speak of Scorpios as unforgettable. It's not just about intensity in love or sharp insight. It's the magnetic field they carry, the feeling of being seen, even without words. The sensation that something powerful has touched your energy, even if you can't explain it. So if you've ever felt drawn to someone for no logical reason, if you've ever looked across a room and couldn't stop thinking about a single glance, if you felt a presence that lingered long after the person left, chances are you've encountered the magnetic force of a Scorpio. And that power? They don't flaunt it. They simply are it. Fifth hidden power. Scorpio can reinvent themselves completely, and no one sees it coming. If there is one sign in the zodiac that knows how to disappear and return as someone entirely new, it's Scorpio. This is not about pretending to change or making superficial adjustments to please others. This is about real, profound transformation, death and rebirth, ending and beginning. Scorpio doesn't just grow, they shed their skin. And when they do, the old version of them ceases to exist. Most people evolve slowly, incrementally. Scorpio does that too, but when the moment of reinvention arrives, it happens with such force and clarity that it's almost shocking. One day, you think you know them. You know how they think, how they feel, what they want. And then, suddenly, they change. And the version of them you knew is gone. This ability is not a performance, it's survival. Scorpio senses when a cycle has ended, when a part of their identity has expired, and instead of clinging to what no longer fits, they burn it down. They walk away, not because they're cold, but because they are fiercely committed to becoming who they truly are. Even if that means letting go of comfort, familiarity, and sometimes, people. What makes this so powerful and so strange is how silent the process is. Scorpio doesn't announce that they're transforming. They don't ask for permission. They don't seek validation. They go into themselves, deep, isolate, reflect, confront their shadows, and when they reemerge, they are not improved versions of who they were. They are reborn. This phoenix-like energy is both terrifying and awe-inspiring. It's why Scorpios are often described as intense, mysterious, or even too much, because they are not afraid to go where most people refuse to, into the underworld of their own psyche, into the pain, the loss, the regret. They confront what others deny, and they come back stronger. But there's another layer to this reinvention power. Scorpio not only transforms themselves, they inspire transformation in others. Being close to a Scorpio often accelerates personal change. Something about their presence forces you to face your truth, to grow, to evolve. They challenge you to rise to your potential, not with pressure, but with presence. And if you resist change, if you try to hold on to the old version of them or of yourself, Scorpio will pull away. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Because for Scorpio, staying the same is a kind of death. The only path is forward, through the fire, into the unknown, toward whatever truth is waiting on the other side. So if a Scorpio in your life has ever vanished, reinvented themselves, and returned with new eyes, new words, a new energy, know this: you were never dealing with someone ordinary. You were witnessing the embodiment of transformation, of evolution, of becoming. And that, above all, is Scorpio's most hidden and most divine power. They don't just change, they become. Conclusion: Scorpio doesn't show power, they become power. Now that you've seen the hidden layers behind the Scorpio mystique, you understand something most people never will. Scorpio doesn't need to prove their power. They embody it, quietly, deeply, unapologetically. These 5 hidden powers are not tricks or traits. They're the very essence of how Scorpio moves through the world. While others perform, Scorpio transforms. While others react, Scorpio observes. While others seek validation, Scorpio seeks truth. And in that commitment to depth, to silence, to transformation, they unlock something rare: real influence, real presence, real magic. If you're a Scorpio, you might be realizing now how much of your strength you've kept hidden even from yourself. You've survived emotional storms, read people without trying, held space for healing, radiated silent magnetism, and reinvented your very being, all without asking for recognition. But after watching this video, let this truth settle in. What you've been doing all along is not just survival, it's mastery. And if you know a Scorpio, if you love one, are friends with one, or had your life changed by one, now you know. You weren't imagining it. That depth, that pull, that unspoken power, it was real. It still is. It always will be. Because Scorpio doesn't just exist in the zodiac, they shape it, from the shadows, with quiet fire, with sacred intensity. They are the reminder that not all power needs to shout. Some power whispers, and still moves everything. Do you agree? Drop us a line below.